And it might make a difference on whether you're on a Mac or a PC. So,
ooh, that's interesting.
Oh, I'm on a PC.
I don't know.
Interesting.
Okay. Huh.
I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm just messing with it. Hey, Sandra, you joined. No updates.
We have somebody who's trying to get in that the computer is telling them that there's no such meeting. It won't let her join, and there's no such meeting. So, let me.
Did she try the new link, or did she do the first link that you sent her to just make it a hyperlink?
I sent it to her just now.
Oh, okay. Weird.
She couldn't do the first one. I tried this one. That is weird. Let me try something else. Okay. So while we're waiting for people before I make any announcements or whatever, just overall, who wants to jump in? How are things going? Your staff, you guys?
Well, my staff are doing good. I meet with them once a week through Zoom, and we just hash out whatever is going on and just checking to see how they're doing. And if they have any questions, they ask. If I don't have an answer, oh, well, Hakuna Matata. No, I'm just kidding.
Then you're just like everybody else in the state.
You know, because they're asking me all these questions. I'm like, we're waiting for the superintendent to meet with us first. So, but anyway, no, things are going well, and the packets home for those that do not want to get online. We send packets home to them, and sometimes the packets come back because they've moved and they didn't tell us. So, I hunt them down. So we go from there. Other than that, we're doing the best we can. That's all we can do right now.
You know, the best we can is the best we can. Very good.
We're doing pretty well. We're doing pretty well in Greenville. Most of my kids are getting their packets. The district's been good about mailing them to those out-of-district kids a little bit. And then we're doing the teletherapy with the babies. Some of them we've lessened the minutes a little bit because of parent request of 45 minutes is too long to try to be on teletherapy. But some of my parents that I've been with longer, that I have more of a rapport with, we can get longer times. And I think it's just because of our relationship more than anything else. And then newer babies. And I've got 2 new babies that we were going to assess right after spring break. And I've touched out to ECI twice and haven't heard back about trying to get services started for them, you know, because Sky High, I feel like could be done through Zoom, through questionnaires, and one's a 15-month-old that's never had services, and one's a baby born in November that we've been trying to assess since December, January, but every time we turn around, the baby's sick or mom cancels, something comes up. So that's been the only hiccup there. And then a lot of it is sometimes the parents, like one of my pre-K parents is just like, I don't want to talk every day. Can you and so I just text her every day, how's things going? But I found that early intervention website, the Facebook has an early intervention group that I've somehow got involved with. It's not just a home hearing, and I've been able to find some things there that I can send to parents, which has been real helpful too.
Okay, good.
I'm going to have Kitty Cat come say hello in a minute. You going to come over?
Susie, can I ask something
Please
of
do.
the group? Maybe? Okay. I met with my group earlier, and I'm sure that these questions have been answered, but I'm just wondering what everyone's thoughts are on these 2 things. So the first one was, really differentiating between what the kids that are going to qualify for ESY and compensatory, because I think some of the concerns are it's not necessarily that some of these kiddos are going to regress, but like one of the parents asked, rightfully so, they may not regress, but they're not learning as much as what they possibly could have sitting, in a classroom. So that was one of the questions. And then the other is, are any districts going to just continue through the summer with virtual, classrooms basically to do compensatory. And I guess it's kind of double. You're serving compensatory, but you're also making sure that they don't fall behind, or, they're gaining what they may have, had they been in the classroom up until the end of the school year. But so those were just two things. I'm just wondering how you guys are advising staff.
Okay, so as of right now, what TEA has told us is good question. That's pretty much all the guidance that we've gotten.
Okay, I refer them back to districts, but okay. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything.
Yeah, if anybody is going through summer, I haven't heard of it, but that doesn't mean anything because I don't know what everybody is doing. TEA hasn't announced if anybody is doing it. And the whole idea about compensatory services versus ESY and all of that has come up many times in many discussions. We know that pretty much 100% of public school kids in the world right now are going to be regressing. So how do you say that we owe compensatory services when nobody is getting good education? But at the same time, I think a lot of what's going to be going on over these next 4-6 months it depends. And as far as I know, we don't have any guidance. Are any of y'all's districts coming up writing anything?
So I know our district announced this morning, which changes every day. So they said it today, but it could change by the end of the week, that we'll be doing some type of digital virtual learning until the end of June.
Oh, wow.
So, but that was today. So things change, ebb and flow, trying to move with the flow.
And is that today with the superintendent? I'm sure things will change too. But we're going to have summer school virtually, virtual ESY. So we'll see what happens. Things changes daily. So who knows?
We are still discussing the summer services, and the discussion was brought up of having ESY virtually or possibly moving it into July instead of June and doing more in July. We're also doing amends for all of our special ed students to specify the services that are being provided during this time, and requesting that the parents sign off on it or reviewing it with them and then having them sign off on it. So we kind of have a document that's a little more aggressive than what TEA put out, addresses a little more than what they have, and actually has it in an amend document with all of the verbiage in it. So we're actually putting amends in place for every single special ed student.
Anyone else want to jump in on how things are going in your district or what you guys are planning for end of year, summer stuff?
Susie, this is Elaine. I wanted to just say something about my itinerants, not the regional day school programs, the itinerants that are within Central Texas. And it's crickets out there. We did have our meeting last week that was on the calendar to have, but crickets. So I just didn't know, and I know many of them have been doing AND stuff, which is great. I'm encouraging them to do that, but I just find that interesting.
Yeah.
Susie, this is Sharon, and I've reached out to my itinerants out there as well, and I've heard back from one of them, but it is pretty quiet out there, and usually I always say, let me know what I can do. I'll try to help any way I can, but I'm not getting much from them either.
Well, a couple of our itinerants that are in high school are just texting the teacher sort of daily, checking in, asking if they need help on homework. They might set up a Zoom, if they need help with work. Some of the parents have said, we can only handle the packets. We don't want anything else from anybody else, but we want to have contact with you if we need it, because the parents are overwhelmed. They don't know how to do the work in the packets, nevertheless. One of our high school parents, though, I'd sat through TWI listening with the captioning, and he was having issues with a lot of videos. And so she got on the phone with mom and explained that that caption app. What's caption? Can't think of what it's called right now.
Web captioner.
Web captioner.
Got him set up, and I actually had an art on the student, and one of the parents said they're having problems with the videos, and the teacher was there, and I said, teacher, can you and I Zoom after this? And I taught the teacher, because she was recording Loom or Screen Master, and I told her about Loom because she had not heard about Loom having unlimited and things like that. And we sort of walked through, and I showed her on Zoom how to add captions, and she was very open to doing that for this student. And that student is struggling, and I actually added, she didn't have any itinerant services, and we've added some where I'm going to meet with her 3 times in 9 weeks and really get between 3 times between now and the end of the school year on Zoom and try to work with her. She's one that's sort of in denial about her hearing loss and going through some things and transitioning. So she needs some advocacy skills. And so, but it is crickets for some, where we're just trying to track down the parents. And the teachers are pretty good about getting back and saying no issues. And I'm like, well, I'm here if you need me. And that's a lot of the consult kids too. The consult kids are sort of out there sort of hanging. But I am sending out more s'mores newsletters to all of my parents and trying to send out about the captioners, making sure they've got my contact information. If you have any questions about accessibility, please get in touch with me. And just anything I see out there, like even if it's, we're using C's, in our program, but even if it's ASL stories, getting those out there to those signing parents so they have something. And I'm getting like 67, 70 views on most of my s'mores. So I think they're being read more than they were being read prior to this.
Okay, awesome. Okay, and one of the things that TEA has said, all along, if a parent doesn't want us in their face, if they don't want those services all day, every day, if they just are having more that they can handle, and let's just face it, many of us are feeling that way right now, it's within their right to say, I just can't do it anymore, but to still reach out to them on a weekly basis, every 10 days or so, just to say, hey, just checking in, making sure you guys are okay. A lot of times our students are in homes where nobody signs. So even if we can say, can I do a 3-minute FaceTime call with your kid and just say, hey, I'm here. If you need me, contact me, whether it's about the parents, whether it's about the kids, whatever. So I like the idea of sending home the s'more and making sure that the resources and stuff are in there. We did create a live binder back in March when all this began to happen that has information for parents, for teachers, lesson plans, virtual activities, sign stuff. If you're not familiar with that, I will make sure to send that to you so that you've got that again. There's way too much information in there. And so, and I've been deleting stuff just because it got very, very overwhelming. But looking at doing a s'more of some sort, just kind of focusing and highlighting some of that. So awesome. Okay. Who haven't we heard from?
Her a second. Lisa, I don't know what I don't know if she's in as many meetings as I am right now, but
okay, hold on a second.
Right now, one with Susie Teagues.
Okay.
Then we have one
I think several people have their mics open but aren't talking. So
yeah, unless we can do it together. Send it both of us, and I'll talk to her. I need to talk to her about the evaluations for Isaiah and
somebody's having a side conversation. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. I think Mary Buckaloo.
Mary.
It would be
okay.
nice, but I
am muting. Okay. So right. Megan Dickey, you were going to jump in.
I was just going to say one of the things that we've done with some of our elementary classes is a kind of a virtual recess, and we send a Zoom link out to the parents, and they can bring the kids in front of the computer and let them see their classmates and connect with them and sign. And it's really unstructured. We don't have a educational purpose for it other than that language and socialization. And so giving them the opportunity to see that everyone's at home and it's not just them, number one, and that everyone's okay because they don't know the status of their friends. And then just helping them see each other. And it gets a little odd sometimes as we get a tour of their home and, you know, pets and all of those things that you get with little kids. But it's fun and it's good for them, and can be eye-opening for the parents to see them communicate with their peers.
That's true.
Megan, I think that's a great idea. Do you guys have to have some sort of like permission on file to do that? I'm just thinking about like student confidentiality.
We don't, because we've sent it to the parents, and so the parents can choose to log on or not. We do have a permission that our providers that are actually using it instructionally, like our speech therapist and our counselor, they do get permission before they start those calls. But for the recess, it's just an optional thing. So we don't.
Mm-hmm. Well, and really it wouldn't be any different than if you guys were doing your 3rd grade math class with all 5 students in there together. Yeah, I like that idea of a recess.
We do require that anybody who's going to do group instruction of any kind, there's an email that's sent out to the parents to get their consent to do the group, because even if it's students that they're normally with, you don't know who's going to wander through the room in the background. So we always, for all of our staff, we've asked them if they're going to do any kind of group instruction, that they send this out, get the parents to agree that they can do group instruction with the understanding that there may be other people in the room who will see their child. It's just something our legal department asks us to do.
That makes sense. Okay. Who else wants to share an update with how things are going with you guys?
Well, I'll share from the San Antonio area, Region 20. I've been able to connect with my itinerants on a weekly basis. We get together for about an hour, and I'm passing along, updates and information, and then we basically share out. And one thing I wanted to mention is that I had several itinerants who said, in the beginning it was pretty rocky, but as they've been, practicing with the online pieces, as well as just working with the parents and letting them know that it's okay. We are all learning this new virtual system. And so several of them had some really great breakthroughs, where they were basically walking through, how do we use this platform? How do we do this, with several parents that, just made them more comfortable with it. So that was some good news.
Good. I like that idea with the weekly. So Elaine, you're not having, your itinerants aren't getting in touch at all. I'm assuming your RDSPD ones are, but your, what we call the rogue itinerants aren't.
Right. So our other itinerants, and when I say other, some of them work for the other 2 RDSPDs in the area, and then some are just district itinerants. They didn't want office hours. They didn't want a weekly meeting. Well, I shouldn't say they didn't. Several wanted hours, several wanted a weekly meeting, and several just wanted nothing. And so in the end, the group consensus was we started a Google folder where if a question comes into me through the listserv, I will send out a note saying this question has come across, and then I add that question to the Google folder, and then they can all go in and share their strategies and answers for one another. And they just felt like right now that's what they could handle. It's great.
Love that idea.
So, but ever since
everybody's
then,
in a different place.
I've only gotten one email since then from that group. That was last Tuesday, I want to say, a week ago today. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
I also meet with my VI team and my Deaf Ed team once a week, everybody, including interpreters, teachers, itinerants, everybody. We have a one day a week that we meet. And our district has set it up where I can put it in Eduphoria so they get credit for professional development for those meetings, which is awesome. But it's really just a time to get together and talk about what's going on with everybody. our interpreters are extremely busy, probably more so than anybody else in the district, because they are doing not only all of the live presentations, which at the high school, they're doing block schedules. So they're doing a 20-minute live presentation for, throughout the day, but they're also doing embedding sign language into all the videos that are being sent out. They're available for all the tutoring sessions. They're available for all the office hours that are set up. And they're also assisting with deaf parents of students who are not deaf themselves, just as a way to help out the district, as long as they're on contract and they're not busy with anything else. So I think our interpreters are probably working harder and more hours than anybody else, which is, that's fine. I've been able to keep my 2 long-term interpreters on as well during this time period. So it's been a learning experience for everybody. They're also doing training for parents who want to learn sign language at home. So we had a couple of parents, we've always offered that, where the interpreters could go out to the home. Now of course it's digital through video, but we've had a few more that have just decided now that their kids are home all day and they can't communicate with them, that they would like to learn sign language. Well, that's awesome. So we're providing that as well. So everybody's very busy, but we're working through the whole thing. It seems to be going well.
Good.
I think parents will have more, what can I say? The outlook on teachers will be completely different when the kids go back. More respect for teachers, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm seeing that a lot. So.
Well, our district will send out the police officers to do a welfare check. I think the last time they had checked 600 students that had not responded. So I let my teachers know if the parent hasn't responded, you need to let me know. Now, the SSA district, I usually email the director. We have any work, I tell the teacher, scan it, email it. When the child is finished, scan it, email it back. So that's what we've been doing. But yeah, welfare checks has been working.
Okay. That's the first time I've ever heard about that. Is anybody else's districts doing that?
Our district is sending out, NISD is sending out letters to the non-participatory students and following up with them as far as the requirements that the district has upon them to participate in our classrooms.
Okay.
So the legal, I think it's pretty much from our legal department.
One funny thing was that we had one parent that we couldn't reach. So I told the teacher, she sends them a text and remind of Class Dojo, and she let her know, Miss Musa is going to do a home visit. Boom, the next day she was able to connect. So, because they know me, I'll go there and pick their butts. No. So she joined already, no problem with that. Because I was going to send the police officer to her house.
Well, we know that we've got kids who went to Mexico for spring break and haven't been back, or are in areas of the state that may or may not get internet connection or phone connection, or, are out of state. So, that's been a big question all around on how do you handle it in these situations.
Well, kids that don't have internet, what our district is planning to do, they haven't done it yet because the other district has done that. They're going to have a Wi-Fi bus. They're going to have 3 buses, and the parents will drive to where the buses are and connect to the internet. And so that's what our district is doing. But those in Mexico, oh well, Hakuna Matata. Don't know what's going to happen if they're in Mexico. So that's why I can't help from there.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else want to update on how things are going there?
So I have a question. I know PEAMS reporting for the spring is usually due now. What are we doing for PEAMS reporting?
I think that is on a district by district basis, not on a district by district, but that's something that your district will know. There is a specific COVID code in PEAMS now, but I will ask to see if there's anything like that we would need to know beyond what the district will be sharing.
Okay.
We did get a question from Emily about when we would have numbers, when our allocations for next year, and she is waiting to get those numbers from PEAMS. And as soon as she does, she'll work on those. So it'll probably be the end of May, beginning of June before she's got that. But she said PEAMS has been overloaded with the rest of the stuff that they're having to take care of right now. So whatever that may look like, I don't know. Okay, I'm going to share just a few things that I have here, and then I've got questions I want to kind of hear from everybody else. So the number one question we've been getting is about statewide, and the answer is we don't know yet. As of right now, it is still on. We are not able to break that contract right now without losing our shirts and going bankrupt and not being able to have a conference in 2 years. So the plan is for right now to do a smaller conference, knowing that there's going to be a lot of people who won't be able to travel. If there is a decision made on a statewide basis that we are still not doing crowds or whatever, then we'll be able to get out of the contract without losing our shirts. But as of right now, the answer is we don't know, and we'll let you know as soon as we know something. For the C Skill Shop, the one in that we had scheduled for North Texas and the one that we have scheduled for Austin are going to be combined. They're going to be online, and those are going to happen July 20th through the 24th. We'll do registration through ESC Region 11, and I'll send you guys out the link. As of right now, yesterday when we were looking at this, we only had about 5 or 6 people registered in each of the 2 locations. So deciding to combine it instead of doing 2 separate ones, fiscally was the most responsible. Mm-hmm.
I think I sent that in to the secretary last week. So text her or whatever, because I can get a hold of her and just say hold it until they register on. Or if it's been sent, would they still be registered for it on the other one? I mean, is it still going to be the same amount?
Yeah, because she would be registering through the ESC Region 11 for the North Texas one, correct? Or would she be doing the one in Austin? Okay.
Yeah, that would be the one in ESC 11. I think I sent it to her last week, so it may have been processed this week. I don't know. So I'll have to get, because they were like, we need everything by May 1st. So I got on but I just had one say, when I sent an email out saying it was going to be online, how can I get registered? I forgot to register. And I'm like, gosh, doggone, I told you a week and a half ago to get registered. And so, but are they going to have to register again if they've already registered?
No, tell them to go ahead and use the link that they've already got. Okay. We will be transferring all of that to the new date.
And so I don't need to tell them that won't be a problem to change any of that as far as if they send it in. Okay, that's good to know.
No.
Okay.
No, that's just, but no, if they have questions, that it is being moved into July and it will be online.
Okay.
As of right now, the one in Houston will be face-to-face. That's happening in August, but things may change, so we don't know for sure yet. So.
Okay. And will it still be $100 or $120? I don't remember, because Region 11 is a different price and Austin is a different price.
Yeah, it'll be $100 for Region 11.
Okay.
Okay. Trying to think what some of the other concerns, questions that I keep getting. We did have a meeting with TEA this morning, the Service Center Special Ed Directors, and those of us who just lurk on those meetings. One of the questions is about funding, being able to roll over until next year. They're still working on that. The hope is that they'll be able to get some of those grants that don't normally roll over to be able to roll over, but they don't have a decision on that yet. They just know that it's something that needs to be talked about. So as soon as we hear anything, we will let you know.
I have one more question on the C workshop.
Yes, please do.
For those people that have already registered in Austin, do they need to register for Region 11?
I will talk with Elaine about that, and we'll figure out what we want to do about that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Rollover funds, as soon as we know something, we'll let you know. Another thing that came up is the guy who's in charge of like all the complaints in the due process was asking the service centers about how districts are handling it if they can't get packets out, or how they're getting packets out, what happens if people don't have internet. One of the questions that is something that we all really need to be considering is, what if we've got parents who just say, I cannot handle this right now. I'm having to work, plus homeschool my kids, plus my husband's lost his job, plus, and what is the ramification of that? We've got some districts who are saying, you've got to prove to us that you are working every day, working every week, or you're not going to get credit. We've got others who are saying, just do your best, and we're sending prayers your way. Are you running into, this is kind of more a question for you guys to share back with TEA, are you running into families who are just absolutely not able to do any type of schoolwork right now? And is your district made any guidance on what do you do in those situations?
In Humble, the work that they're doing during this time can only help them. It can't hurt them. So if they do the work and they turn in the assignments and they have an average for the semester of 85 and their previous average was 75, they'll average those two together. If it's lower than what they had during the third 9 weeks, they don't count it. They'll just count the third 9 weeks twice. So they're giving them the option to do it, but it's not going to hurt them if the grades are lower or the performance is lower. And they're allowing a wide range of options for performance. It can be the work they can turn in. Depends on what the child is, what their IEP and their goal looks like. So if it's actual work, then they look at the work. If it's performance on certain activities, especially for our kids in self-contained, then they're looking at things they directly observe and things that parents report. But it can't pull their grades down. It can only help them to move up.
And that's what our district says as well. He says we use balance and grace. And so we're not going to penalize any kid for not turning in any work as long as they're doing the best they can. We're using balance and grace. So don't ask me what that means. And that's just what our superintendent, we meet with him every week. And I did tell my boss, since I have the title director, and I said, well, can we just take the title away? That way I don't have to be in these meetings. He said no. But anyway, so we meet with the superintendent every week. And so we use balance and grace. So as long as they're doing something, and for those parents that the husband has, doesn't have a job, then he's at home. We can help out, right? No, maybe.
Maybe.
I'm just being bad.
Yeah, depending on that stress level.
Right.
Ian Dar's been using grace, not grades. So balance and grace, not grades. I think that, all of that. Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in on how your districts are handling that?
Ours district is also using grace, and they actually have a pass-fail instead of actual grades for our junior high and high school students, and not affecting GPA. They released the information last week, and they are having a board workshop tonight to reflect upon the community input that has been received about their policy. So we don't know if that's going to change or not.
Well, and for us, it's pretty much the same thing. And I know our special ed director sent out a big documentation form through Google Docs, and I've got access to all the schools of any self-contained student, which is my self-contained regional day school. We've got to have daily contact, or try to at least. And a couple of my teachers weren't doing it. So I had to have a meeting, and I do meet with my teachers once a week as well. We want that documentation. And then if it's something extraordinary, put it into ESPED or our IEP thing so it's documented there. But I think I like the fact they did that for us so we can document and it's all in the same place, so they can see what we're doing and then tie minutes to that. So if I call and talk, I'm working with the 2 pre-K because I do a little bit of everything, Susie. But sometimes I'm talking to them for 45 minutes and we're talking about something I've sent and how it work language into every day, all day. It's, you know, it's not that hard. I mean, it is, but it's just a habit to get into. And some parents have really stepped up, and some parents, you know, like everybody else, are just struggling. So my teachers can't always get in touch with some of my parents. And so I say, put that you tried and that they didn't get back. I'm lucky one of my interpreters speaks fluent Spanish. So she's been very busy contacting the Spanish speaking parents. So we've not had to go and try to find somebody else who speaks Spanish. And but most of the high school kids have been really good because they have good relationships with the teacher and the interpreter of staying in contact. I know the principal at the high school wanted to know students who were not trying. We've had to have 1 or 2 discussions with a couple of kids. If you've got to at least attempt to do something, you can't just do nothing. So they do want to see some effort, at least, even if it's minimal effort by the kids to do their work.
Okay. Anybody else?
Here in El Paso, we're pretty much doing the same thing. It's more of a pass, no pass kind of thing. As someone mentioned, it's not going to hurt them. It can only improve their chances to get a better grade. But as far as if parents aren't contacted, I know that the teachers are asked there to contact parents to do a wellness check per se on the students through the parents every 2 weeks. So the district gives them prescribed questions to ask. We are trying to provide as many hotspots as possible, or giving them different links to like Spectrum or something that can possibly help with the internet situation for right now. All of our students in the elementary are receiving paper packets starting this week. So, of course, if they're able to get online, we rather them do that. But for those that have spotty internet or don't have a technology, they are to start using the paper packet they've been using. At that point, the teachers are still responsible to contact parents to ensure that the students are doing the work. If they have a phone that can take pictures, the parents are being asked to please take a picture of the assignment, send it in to the teacher, so that the teacher can still provide some kind of feedback to the student as far as if they're getting the concept or not. I know we have one parent that we haven't been able to contact. We've been documenting all the phone numbers we've tried. I've even reached out to the district that the student belongs to and asked for their help. So they're going to be doing a home visit this week to see what's going on there. We do have a student in the high school that pretty much has said, I'm not doing anything. And we've reached out to the student, to the parents, and we're not getting any support there. So all we can really do is just document all our efforts. And I think we're at this point to where we're going to probably start sending some kind of paper packet to her, so that way she can hopefully attempt it, or at least we can show good faith effort that we do have, we didn't forget about her and that we're trying to reach her in all sorts of ways.
Has she given a good reason why she's not willing to do it?
She laughs every time when this all started and we said, okay, we're going to go virtual. She started to laugh. She pretty much said, you know what, I'm not doing it. And I don't care if I have to repeat the grade. She just is not, even before this, she was starting to get there. And now that she's at home and there's really no one to be, you know, for her to show responsibility, this is her way of saying, I'm done. So, and parents, unfortunately, are not very supportive. So she's not going to do it. We've given her different ways to try to do her work. And she basically said, I'm not doing it.
We know that we've got some that are not doing it just because why bother? And then we've got some who really are in a place to not be able to do it emotionally, physically, whatever right now. So, okay, awesome.
We have had parents who have said that, I'm not interested. I don't want my child to do this. I'm too busy. They're in daycare, number of different reasons. We just document everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's all you can do. You can't force them when they're at school. You can't force them when they're not at school. So, Mary Buckley, you were?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, I was getting something from the grandbaby.
Okay.
We do have ready, willing, and able letters that we have sent out that our lawyer provided to the parents who are just saying no to anything, or those that we're having a hard time getting a hold of or have had very minimal communication with. Our classroom teachers have the dojo, I forget the first thing, the
Class dojo.
Class dojo.
They have that for the elementary, and then our middle and high school are using the Google Classrooms. For the most part, most of the kids are participating one way or another. We've gotten hotspots out to the kids. We've gotten electronic devices out to the students. And we've even done that for some of our itinerant students as far as hotspots go. So they're trying really hard to communicate with all the families. And so we've sent packets. We've done, what our district has guided us to do. So we're doing the same thing for us. So we're trying real hard to get a hold of the parents and trying to do that. Our teachers are sending out those letters. We have several different forms of the ready, willing, and able letters, depending on what the situation is. And so we've been doing that. And hopefully we meet with our director at least once a week. So to try to help us and guide us on all that too.
Awesome. Thank you. Anybody else want to chime in on that?
Susie, and I'm not chiming in, there was a question in the chat about whether there will be notes sent out about this, and I did note that it's being recorded, but I don't know your plans for sharing.
I don't normally send out notes, but I have been posting the recordings, and then I take a lot of notes, so like you guys can see all of my sticky notes, and then usually what I do is if there's stuff that is really needs to be highlighted, then I post that, I share that. A lot of it's just stuff more for my own that helps me moving forward, but some of it will definitely be stuff that needs to be shared. So the answer is somewhat yes. My very formal way of doing things. So yeah. Awesome. Okay. So one question that has come up several times that I know that some of you, I'm sure, are running into is your general ed teachers. How many of them have just from day one did a really good job in jumping in and making sure our kids were accommodated, and how many of them kind of were, oh yeah, we forgot that it needs to be accessible? And for those who haven't done a real good job jumping in, how open have they been to making sure that they are choosing captioned videos and getting signed, things like that?
Crickets, crickets, crickets.
Cricket, 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 yes. I can speak for our program.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. For the most part, our teachers have been, our gen ed teachers have been very, very good. I have to applaud them because a lot of our partnerships are over multiple years. And so things are just kind of, that relationship's already there. We also advised all of our classroom teachers to contact their gen ed counterpart as soon as we knew what was happening, and just kind of hit them on the forefront of, I'm here for you, how can we do this, and things like that. I think our biggest struggle is our junior high and high school use It's Learning, and our teachers are enrolled in those courses as students, and so they don't have any editing rights to the courses. And that took a lot of, some of them they weren't even enrolled in. That took a lot of logistics to work with, but that was a software issue, platform issue versus a willingness and a partnership issue.
Okay. Awesome. Who else wants to weigh in on your gen ed?
Our teachers do have access to the Google Classroom that the gen eds are using, so they jump in and the interpreters jump in to interpret for the deaf kids. So that's what we're doing at our secondary level. And even elementary level, they do have access to the Google Classroom that the gen ed teachers are using. So.
Okay. Awesome. If your interpreters and deaf ed teachers are not on Facebook, you might strongly encourage them to set up a temporary Facebook account. We've got a teacher interpreter group as well as a teacher deaf ed group, Texas, and the conversations that have been going back and forth on those have just been amazing from day one. Helping on, okay, I'm using this software. How are you guys doing that? Or, okay, we ran into this issue. What are you guys doing? And sharing ideas, resources, strategies, tips, all sorts of stuff. So encourage your staff to get hooked up with the others around the state.
One thing we have is one of my interpreters set up at the beginning of the year our own Facebook page just for GISD Deaf Ed. And it's been really nice. We've added a couple of subs to it and people, and we have one visually impaired teacher. So I said, can she join? She has nobody to talk to about anything. And they're like, yeah, come on board. And some of it's just a place to vent and put memes up and things like that. But anytime I see anything, then it's really nice. I can just share it to that group and I don't have to put their names in it or, anything, or I can go find the link if it's not shareable. So that's been sort of nice for our group to have. And when we had our Deaf Ed meeting last week, we did crazy hair day. Only 2 of my staff did it, but I did my hair all up. And we've been doing that with our special ed staff meetings, having a theme. One day it was bring as much toilet paper as you have in your house just to see who's the hoarders are. So, and one guy made a whole fort. I mean, like it was huge of all of his toilet paper. So we're trying to get some levity in there, when we can. But we can talk about what are you doing with parents who aren't. So I think the meeting once a week and then having those contacts, because I think that's what a lot of people are really missing is, the contacts. And then I like the virtual recess, but unfortunately for some of our kids, they just don't have good internet. We cannot even get anything. Some of them we can, and we are seeing once a week, but then the ones we can't, we just can't. The parents just aren't interested and in general, there's not good service in that area, even when all this isn't going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, understand that.
I would say that most of our gen ed teachers have been really great, especially at the elementary level. But there's 1 or 2 that are reluctant to add people to their Google Classroom or to give them the information. We've had to work with them. But for the most part, they've been really good about getting with the teachers and working with the teachers. It seems that the resistance is more to having interpreters have access because they look at them still as paraprofessionals. And what we've had to explain to them is that the interpreters need to know what it is you're going to be instructing so they can prepare ahead of time for any language or vocabulary or how they're going to explain this. But it's only been a few teachers at the high school. I think for the most part, our teachers have been very accommodating and very aware of the needs of our students anyway. I don't know about other special ed students, but for our students, they've been pretty understanding.
Really ours are the only one that really matter, at least right at this very moment in this particular group.
Well, except I'm also over the eye. That's a whole other issue. I also deal with
well, it's that eye and ear so close together, everybody mixes us up anyway. So very good. Sherry, with the teachers who are kind of struggling to make sure that your interpreters have access, is that some training or something that we might be able to pull out from a state level that might be helpful? Or is anybody else running into something similar? Bye, Rekia.
I'm not sure that it's a state level thing. I think, you know, some people are just very protective. They don't want to share their information with anybody other than their students. And in one instance, we've had to go through an administrator and say, look, this is something we really need to have access to. Now that we're doing a men's amendment ARDS for 4,000 kids in the district for all of our special ed kids, that's also been a little bit of an issue where some people don't want to share information or get on these shared Google Docs. But we've worked through most of that. I think most of it we've been able to talk. For most of them, I think it's a way of how you approach it. Yeah. You know, I'm not aggressive. I'm not complaining. I'm just explaining, you know, could you call me and let me know so we can discuss this? And we usually work it out. In one instance with one of my VIs, as soon as I sent the email, they resolved it. They didn't even talk to me. I said, I'm so intimidating, I guess. As soon as the email went out, they were like, oh, I'll fix this.
The boss says.
Yeah, right. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I know that there have been some like tip sheets and stuff created at a national level on, you know, how to work with an interpreter in a virtual environment and things like that. So I will make sure that I gather that stuff to share with everybody, just so that if it is something that would be helpful, at least you've got that as a resource to share. And if there is some training that we do need to do, whether it comes out of TEA or whether it's just a, hey, Susie's team was bored, so we threw this together, you know, we're happy to help in any way we can. We did hear from one district that they had decided that they were going to, bye Mary, give their interpreters a break because they were just going to go ahead and caption everything. So they were going to make sure that all of their live instruction, all of their recorded instruction, everything was going to be captioned. And so they didn't have to worry about interpreters. And we just kind of went, have y'all run into things like that? I don't need to caption it because I have an interpreter, or I don't need an interpreter because I'm captioning it. I'm seeing shaking heads. Oh, can they read well? Well, that's kind of a strange question. Just try. It's been an awful lot of instruction that, you know, I'm sorry, captioning something for my first grader who is on grade level is still not going to be appropriate, let alone my sixth grader reading at a kindergarten level. It's been a very good educational opportunity learning.
Right. One of the things I've told one of the campuses, the high schools, is I told them, you know, captioning is not enough. That is a support. It doesn't supplant. So, because that's the issue, the reading, and sometimes caption, if they don't go back to reread it and correct mistakes, makes no sense sometimes. Or sometimes they just need a little bit more of explanation of what a word means. So we try to do both, but not just one.
Good. That's what we've been sharing as well, that, you know, that captioning is good. We want everything captioned. It's good for 100% of kids. It's just not meant to be used instead of, in many, many cases, unless a student was already ARDed for CART. And if they were already ARDed for CART, that's a whole different situation, but that's not the majority of our kids by any means. Okay, anybody else want to weigh in on the gen ed stuff before I bring up another question that I've been asked? Okay, so we know that packets are going home to families, or technology is going home to families. How are you handling it if the technology is going home to a family who doesn't understand how to use it, and we can't get in there person to person to train them on using it? And how do you handle it if the packets of worksheets are going home to families who don't read and write English, or maybe not even read or write in their home language if they're not native English speakers? What type of strategies are your districts using for that?
I know we're sending home Spanish and English regardless. So even if you speak English, you're getting the Spanish. That way they're not having to make a certain number of packets, but only the Spanish. That's the predominant, and we are heavy predominant with that. I think most of Texas is. And we don't have the technology to send home to parents. We don't have the Chromebooks and things. In fact, our Chromebooks will not work outside of our Wi-Fi area. They only work within Greenville ISD, because we had a parent ask about speech and having one to have speech at home with the speech teacher. And that was an easy, at least no, because it wouldn't work at home. And we weren't giving it out to anybody else. I know some of our member districts do have hotspots, do have Chromebooks, and we've been helpful where the parents are telling us they're having issues and we're passing it on to the special ed director who gets their tech department, probably because they just know us better. We've been with the families for a long time and they feel more comfortable. They know who to reach out to, and we'll get in touch with somebody and help them out.
So what if your parents don't read Spanish then, even if they're Spanish speakers? Are there directions going home in some other type of format, or is it then dependent on the child to be able to explain it?
No idea.
No idea. Okay.
No idea. We have things going home in Spanish and in English. We have a lot of tech support for parents if they need it. Lots of ways that they can contact people. We have Wi-Fi available at all the elementary and middle schools if they go and sit in that parking lot, if they don't have Wi-Fi. But we don't have anything specific in place if parents can't read at least their home language, their native language of Spanish, and we don't have anything for other languages. We have sent home, because the Deaf Ed, our RDSPD has iPads. We have sent iPads home with some students. Our district has provided technology as far as it went. When they ran out, we stepped in. So we provided what technology we had. We had 2 Chromebooks that were Deaf Ed Chromebooks that we issued to 2 Deaf Ed students who couldn't get Chromebooks through the district because they ran out. But as far as support for people that can't read Spanish or English, we don't really have anything specific for that. The district has really tried to provide technology and access for everybody, but I haven't seen anything that addresses parents who can't read Spanish or English, either one, or if they're in a third language. We do have a student who's from South Vietnam, but the parents read and understand English very well, so that's not an issue for them.
Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
Susie, with Microsoft Translate, with PowerPoint, you can add the captions, with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I do know, like when I've done a slide and added captions for stuff, there's that form, the thing that comes up, and it actually has that QSR code. And I think a parent could click in and change the language off their phone. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if that's something we could even teach parents at this point, because I have a hard time showing people in person how to do it. But it is a neat thing. And I haven't had any teachers request any captioning like that where they've got a PowerPoint. Mm-hmm. And I know Carla's done some great things with Loom. I was using Loom prior. But I try to let teachers know about that. The few that are recording, I don't have that many that are recording ahead of time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And that's great for your parents that are literate, but yes, we still run into that problem with the parents that don't have the literacy skills one way or the other. And I don't know if we've got a ton of them, but I've gotten that question twice now from 2 totally different parts of the state. And so it's, and I don't get questions from everybody. So who knows?
Being a small program, because I have the one interpreter who speaks Spanish, she pretty much texts parents when I need her to. So all the parents have her information. And I know they've reached out to her in the past before all this happened if they had a question. And that, just having her being able to speak Spanish is so beneficial to us, and her close relationship with those parents, because she's had some of the high school kids, she's known them since elementary. So we have that. And one of my teachers, my deaf teacher, actually reads and writes Spanish. And so she can at least send stuff home. And I know she's used the video phone to call parents and have it translated into Spanish. So that's been helpful for her because she uses that anyway. But as far as any other languages, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. Another question that I got, and I know that this is really more of a district by district basis, is if you're sending home like paper homework, is it worksheets or is it more activities, more fun learning things for families to be doing, scavenger hunts and Lego challenges or things like that? Sherry says both.
We're doing both as well.
Okay.
I'm not really sure, but I do know the whole district's like every elementary is getting the same stuff. It's not this elementary is doing the one thing and this elementary is doing something else. I'm assuming everybody else is doing it that way.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And so I don't know that the teachers really aren't allowed to add anything to that. Now, my teachers at elementary have been able to go through the packets and get lower grade level information because obviously my kids aren't on grade level for some of that, especially the reading. And so they changed that for some of the kids to put in the packets to go home.
When I think about those type of things going home to families, you know, I have my own personal bias of which ones the families would enjoy more, which ones the kids would actually learn more. But I'm not in a classroom anymore, and I don't know how much of that type of stuff has been considered. So I was curious to see.
Well, Susie, one of my babies that I see every week, the mom was complaining about the school district doing the fun activities. She was having to go find things and do things, and she would just as soon have the worksheets with her second grader. And so, you know, I think every parent's different depending on what they want to do. And I see the benefits of both, you know, but it's just, you know, sometimes they don't have everything there and they don't maybe have the skill set. I mean, she's like, Mary, I was in special ed when I was in school. I don't know how to do this.
So, and I would have to argue why the parents having to go find anything, because isn't that the part of what we would be wanting the child to do?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, just it's a second grader, you know.
Yeah. One of my work partners has a second grader and they're doing fractions. So their homework was to go find, the kids had to go find things within their house that was already broken in half, that, you know, had two pieces to it, or that there were two other things like that. So, you know, I think that was to me, that's a fun activity. If the parents are having to do the work, then.
Well, I think it was find this stuff for the child to build something or make something, or, you know, with like construction paper and different things like that, not find things within the house that fit that. I think that would be fun.
Yeah. I still think the kids should be doing it, but.
I think it kind of depends on the family and the kid, but in our district, every campus is different. So for my teachers, both Def Ed and VI, it's really a struggle because every campus is handling things differently. Even though the district put out recommendations that we do one graded lesson per week and this, I mean, some campuses like the high school, they're meeting for every class every other day on a block schedule. For the elementary, they're meeting once for 20 minutes for a class, and then they have, you know, all this other stuff like a bedtime story at 5 o'clock that's optional and all these. Every campus is different. So it's a bit of a struggle to keep up with all of that. But yeah, well, I haven't seen anybody asking the parents to go find materials in the class, I mean, in their home yet, you know, other than maybe some of our ECIs who they normally use things in the classroom, but that's interesting.
Yeah. Very interesting. I cannot imagine expecting high schoolers to be on a block schedule on Zoom, and that goes so against any of the best practices.
20 minutes. And so every class is every other day, and they have 20 minutes direct instruction with that teacher on Mondays and Tuesdays. And then on Thursdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays, they have their tutoring schedule that's set up the same way. And then on Fridays, they have their office schedule when kids can come in. So it's quite an interesting thing to try to set up with the interpreters.
Oh, I can't even imagine. Holy smoke. Okay, glad I'm not having to deal with that. Now, Emily posted in the community of practice about wanting to find out kind of which RDSPDs are doing great things. OSEP is actually looking for model programs or whatever. So they're wanting people to apply and show off and things like that. And we would really, really, really want Texas to be very well represented. So even if you don't feel like what you're doing is all that innovative, I think that it's really, I'd love to see as many of our schools represented as possible. So have y'all special ed programs talked about that at all, or have you seen anything other than what Emily shared? No, Shari says no.
Not really.
Okay. Well, I'll see if I can get some more information about that as well. But, I think that, it'd be great if we could, explain all the great things that are going on. And even if they don't seem that great, this day and age, everything is great. It's better than what we had before. Okay. So my last question for you guys, and then I'll open it up for more chatting if we want, is how can we be supporting you as administrators, your teachers, your paraprofessionals, your gen ed teachers, your interpreters, parents? Is there anything that you need from our Texas SSN team to help support you guys? Crickets. So some of the things that we've done so far, and I think that Twyla has probably done training with every single one of your school districts, your interpreters, your teachers, or somebody, and if not, you're the very small minority. She's been training people how to use Loom and captioning and interpreting and embedding and all that kind of stuff. We've been sharing lesson plan ideas and things like that on Facebook groups. We have the community of practice, just sharing anything we can with administrators in there. We don't have a whole lot of teachers, interpreters, other service providers in the community of practice active at this point, but we would definitely love to see more discussions, things going on in there. So feel free to send your people to go look for some of the groups. We're working on an early intervention remote learning, how to do teleintervention with birth to 3. It was a project I already had in the works. And so it just worked out that the timing was great. And so I'm just waiting for that to get approved from TEA. We've already got 3 sessions done and the 4th one's almost done. So we'll get that posted. And Ian is doing a remote audio session, a Zoom session. I think it's next week with audiologists on how to provide virtual services. She already had that one in the works before this all happened. So if your educational audiologists are not already hooked up to that, send them to the Regional 11 website to get registered. And I don't know, I just feel like we've been very, very, very busy. Hillary and Ann and Danielle have been doing some mock early intervention, teleintervention sessions with the family. So we'll have those. Those are about ready to get posted to shared too, kind of as what that should look like to go along with our session. Hillary, anything that I'm leaving off that we've been working on? Oh, Imagination Texas. Twyla's taken that all online. She's building a website for that. So even if your kids normally don't get to go to Imagination Texas, this year they can, because that will be. Twyla has recorded her tech presentation. So I'll get that link out for you guys too.
Our regional Babies Day Out has become Babies Day In, and what we're going to do is have a short-term Facebook page for parents and practitioners to come and share, and a few videos are being put together for that as well, but we're not going to limit it to just regional. So that's rolling out May 8th until June 30th. So that might be something for our ECI folks.
Okay.
So y'all are going to send something out to us about that?
You know what? Yeah, I'll make a note of it that it'll get on the community of practice.
Yeah, okay, that makes okay.
I would think.
Okay.
We'll figure that out. I'll add it to our
Yeah.
agenda.
If you're not familiar with Baby's Day Out, it's something that some of the service centers do where they bring in, it's birth to 3 focus and the parents and the babies. Some do it just for VI. Some do it a combination of VI and DHH. We just kind of invited ourselves to the VI party because we felt like it wasn't fair that they could and we couldn't. And so, but it's a great way. We normally bring in like HHSC and some of the Braille company, some of the different companies and the services that support the families and have lunch. And it's a great way for us to do some training for families and also modeling things with their kids. And it's a great social opportunity. Needless to say, we're not doing face-to-face this year on that. So, but we decided that it still was important that our families had that connection. So Hillary and Perky and that team have been working on getting that Baby's Day in. So I think, you know, if we're not creative at this time, then I don't know what we are. Okay. That's the questions that I had or the information I needed to share. What else is going on with you guys?
There's something in the chat that asks if and maybe I missed the response when I was picking something.
Yes. Twyla does have it recorded and I will share the link for that.
And I will look for the link to Anne's thing next week.
Okay. Awesome.
Is the communication skills workshop still going on this summer in Austin at TSD?
As of right now, that one's still on the schedule. Thank you for reminding me because that's something else I need to share and to add. As of right now, communication skills workshop is still happening. Statewide is still happening. We'll let you know if there's any difference on that. The C-Skill Shop is happening virtually in July, and at this point, still face-to-face in August in Houston, but we'll let you know if that changes at all.
One of my teachers asked me when I sent a little blurb out real quick about C going online. They're like, what about communication skills? So one of my people asked, not me. I forgot about it.
So yeah, I kept thinking there's something else going on this summer I probably needed to share about. And I do not believe that CSW would be going online. I think that if it doesn't happen, it will not be happening at all, would be that's Susie's gut and not knowledge.
Yeah.
But
what about the like the family weekend retreats and some of that? Have those been canceled?
I don't have any updates on that stuff.
Okay.
But I will ask. I'll check with Michelle.
That's early June usually, so that's like right there.
Yeah, I would be very surprised if they're still having it, but that doesn't mean that they're not. And whether they're going to do something remote instead, I don't know.
Susie, I had a question.
Uh-huh.
I know that, and I appreciate this session because we all needed to hear what everyone else is doing. But I know that at Deal, we normally get other updates and information, and I know peer review is being reworked, and that was kind of on the list. Is there a thought on the disbursement of information later, or planning Deal in the fall, or?
So the plan is to continue dispersing information. We're still going to have these Tuesday afternoons and Thursday mornings, just anybody who wants to jump in chat, ask a question or whatever, but definitely not meant to replace anything else. The peer review stuff was rolling along, going great, and then coronavirus happened and everybody else has had a few other things to focus on. So our hope is that we'll have more information on that to share. My original goal was end of May. End of May or end of July, one or the other, who knows? But as soon as I know something more. But yes, the plan is definitely to keep you guys informed on as much information as we can have. We normally do in the fall the cluster meetings. We'll definitely, we'll definitely probably possibly still do those if we're in school. If we're not, we'll do something similar to this. we had not given any thought about doing a big deal meeting versus clusters. But
did I just understand that these Tuesday, Thursdays are ongoing, not just this week?
Not just this week. The invitations that I shared, some people understood that it was for the next 6 weeks. Some people didn't. So I will send that out and be more clear that you're not the only one. So, but the idea was trying to find one time that everybody could come in and being able to answer all of the questions in a matter of an hour and a half. Probably wasn't going to happen. So we had a couple people on Tuesday last week and a couple people on Thursday, and we'll keep doing that. So if you've got time and questions, come hang out. If not, and if you want to stay the whole time or just pop in to say hi.
So will you send a link each week for each?
It's the same exact link, but I'm sending the reminders. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I will send reminders out so that you can remember that. Okay. Any other questions or thoughts or?
I'm not finding Ann's information immediately, but we can put it in the next. Well,
I'll send it on the community of practice.
Yeah,
and
she's
send an email
sending it to me. If I get it in the next 2 minutes, I'll put it in the chat. But
okay, awesome.
I just thought of something, Susie. We haven't had like our SSA meeting for this year. I've emailed my director and said, is that something we want to do virtually, hold off till the fall? Generally, we have one once a year. I didn't know what everybody else was doing, if they've already had their meeting for the year.
That's a good question. Anybody else want to jump in on that one?
Mine's Thursday.
Okay.
Virtually?
So virtually with Zoom, and I am attached to our superintendent's standing monthly regional meeting, and they had met so much just about coronavirus that they canceled last week's meeting, and so that mine was attached to that, so they had to schedule one this week to hold mine. You know, life.
I am still trying to get mine scheduled. I have emailed. I haven't heard back from everybody. I think, especially some of the smaller districts, they're very busy right now. So as soon as I can get a consensus on when we can meet, we'll meet, and it'll be by Zoom.
Okay.
Well, and this is my special ed director's first year in the district, so she's not done one. I was like, we had actually picked a date, the secretary and I had, and I was going to be talking to her about it. And then COVID hit, and I didn't think about it again until this week. And I went, oh, we need to talk about that. So she's not even sure what we're doing. And the only other thing I think I'm going to run into is budget, because we generally bill for our trips out for services, and that billing is not going to be done. But however, we're not going to be spending the money either. So I mentioned it to my director, because does that money need to be moved to a different fund? I don't deal with all that. She does all of that. And when I asked the secretary and asked her about it, she said, Mary, we're not talking about budget right now. And I said, yes, ma'am. And I just let it go. Because, our tuition actually rose a little bit because we didn't include a teacher last year. We had one leave. So then I had an additional salary to put on there. So we're looking at $21,000. And my biggest concern is I'm going to have a shortfall, because we're not going to have enough to cover, because a lot of the itinerant services have been reduced. Parents don't want the time, and we bill for the time we spend with the student, not by what was in the ARD. If we don't see a student that week, they're sick, we don't bill for it. And it generally always tends to work out because of just new kids come in, and what I've planned for at the beginning of the year, it may change, but the hours still seem to be there. So I'm hoping I can get her to talk about the budget, and thankfully everything's online, and we do a whole Google form and keep up with the kids' hours. But I'm hoping I don't have a shortfall that's significant enough to have to raise tuition with districts who are going to be upset that they're paying for something, but those kids they're getting what everybody else is getting, but they're still not getting in the district service. It's just contact, but that's what everybody else is getting too, So I'm just curious to see if there's an issue there with districts.
I think that at this point we have less information than we have information. So trying to make any kind of, I know that budgeting decisions have to be made, but yeah.
Well, that would be a good reason to have an SSA meeting too, to sort of discuss some of those things, because some districts will see a smaller bill for itinerant or consult services because we bill for the actual time with the student, and some of the parents don't want 45. So if we're not seeing them for 45 minutes, we maybe do 20 minutes of a phone call. That's what we're billing for.
So I'm curious, do any of the rest of you only bill for what you provide versus billing on what's in the IEP? Yeah, I have never heard of anybody else billing that way. Amber?
Oh, I was just going to say, we only, we don't have a tuition, so we bill for,
oh, that's right.
You know, just, I mean, it's very odd, but so we don't have a tuition for the kids who attend our RDSBD classrooms, but we just bill for specific services. And so if the kids aren't seen, then we wouldn't bill for that.
Mm-hmm. I have not heard of anybody else who only bills for the services that are provided and not delivered. And one thing that we can remember when we are looking at, say, like a 45-minute session with a student, as we're looking at online sessions, that does not have to be minute for minute right now. So that could be a 20-minute conversation with the child, plus having some additional activities that the child is doing or some contact with. It doesn't necessarily have to be 45 minutes direct instruction.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I would see any of my kids for 45 minutes straight right now, but it would still be 45 minutes worth of instruction, because I might have them doing things like going to find the construction paper to build something that goes off my lesson. Not the parents, but the child.
And this is more the itinerant services than anything else. It's not the way the consults work. But, you know, with parents who've said, no, we don't want anything but you to call and check in with us. You know, and it might just be something I talk to my special ed director about, and then speak to those special ed directors, other special ed directors, and say, we're going to bill like we usually do, except for the travel, because we're still here and ready to provide those services, even though parents have said they don't want them. And thankfully, I provide pretty good customer service. I've known most of these directors since they were diags. They've known me for over 10 or 12 years. So it's not like they're going on just trying to, I hate to say, screw us. But, you know, because it all comes down, I hate to say, that almighty dollar and what they're spending. And unfortunately, you know, they want to make sure they're getting what, you know, good. And I think they are, but I'm rambling, but it's just, and I don't, my special ed director, I'm still trying to feel out a little bit, even though I've been with her a year. And so she has a good poker face, and I can never tell if I'm going in the right direction.
So my question would be, if something happens, like, I don't know, we have a plague and everybody's quarantined, then what happens if none of our parents want itinerant services and we're not billing any of the districts for that? How is that itinerant teacher going to get paid? And what's she going to be doing instead? Just kind of a consideration. And, you know, you can always say, well, we had a meeting of the deaf ed supervisors, and did you know I'm the only one in the state doing it this way? I don't know that you are the only one in the state, but, you know.
Yeah, one of the few.
But we got your back if that comes up. That's a question that, you know, we can poll to find out who else is doing it. And,
so I have a question. And it does regard billing. So if we continue to bill, and I'm just asking everyone, are you guys just not billing for that travel right now?
Our district pays for the travel for my itinerant teachers. The other districts do not. So there is no travel. So there's no billing because they're not traveling. We have a flat fee per direct student, so we don't have to deal with what she was dealing with before. We're putting IEP amendments in place for every student to say specifically what we're providing during this service. And if the parents sign off on that, that's great. If they don't, we'll have an ARD and discuss it. But as far as travel goes, my district pays for travel for my itinerant teachers. So that comes out of my district, which right now is nothing because they're not traveling.
but still billing for, I would still bill for the itinerant services, even if all those parents have said, just call us once a week for 5 minutes, I would still bill for those.
Okay, and that makes sense, and that may be what we do. I had a real techie teacher last year. We came up with a whole Google form, and it actually just adds it all up for me. I don't have to do anything with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had one baby, they still wanted an hour. He's a very medically fragile child that I was seeing 2 times 30 minutes. Well, 30 minutes on the phone was just too long. The mom had to stop and do things with them. Sometimes he's wearing a vest. And so we had a meeting and changed it to 4 times 15 minutes. So some of that, we're keeping the same minutes. I'm still meeting with the families, but we've just changed how we're doing it because the parents have said, I can't do 30 minutes. Even some of our other babies, they were just like, we cannot do 45. It's too long. And I wants a meeting and wants to make real sure it was the parents' decision, not ours. And it is. But sometimes with those, and they have 3 other kids in the house, they're trying to do everything. And 45 minutes is a long time, y'all. when you're trying to keep somebody, it's hard. It's easy in the home. It's a lot harder in teletherapy. And I'm sure y'all know that.
Yeah, definitely. Amber, did that get your question answered?
Yes. I think we're still going to continue to bill, I guess. And we bill so differently than most do. Like I said, we don't have a tuition. So I guess I have a caveat to that question. Are you guys billing to the amended services then? Or are you billing to their typical ARD paperwork? I don't know if that makes sense. Like their regular schedule services, like if we were in face-to-face.
Billing to their amended services, but because our billing system is just a flat fee for direct services, unless we've changed them from direct to consult, it's really not going to change the billing. And we haven't done that for any of our students. We're continuing to see them directly. It might be through video, but we're providing that service. Whether the student accesses it or not is a different thing. If the parent says, I don't want to do that, then we just document that. But we are ready, willing, and able to provide this through this communication mode. And if the parents are, they agree to the amendment, then that's what we'll bill for. If we haven't had an instance where a parent has said, I don't want anything and please just don't bill me, because the only parents we've had that have mentioned that have been parents within the district who have said, I'm too busy, I'm not going to do this. Doesn't matter, we're still putting it in the amendment. We're providing it, whether you access it or not. We are providing this. It's available to you. We have provided, we have all the emails, all the documentation to show that it's there. It's just like if a student doesn't come to school during the year. But we have outside the district that have said that so far. So because ours is pretty black and white, either you're direct or you're not direct, it's really not that big of an issue with our kids. We don't bill the way you do. It's a different situation.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other questions or concerns or whatever? It's 2:30, so we'll close it up for today. I will be back at 10 o'clock on Thursday. You guys are welcome to come or not. If you've got questions that you want either me to answer, try and find answers to and send, I can do that, or I can bring them on here or whatever. But just remember that we're here. If there's anything that we need to do to help support you guys, we're ready, willing, and able to do so. Not support your students, not teach your students, but you guys. So stay safe. We'll see you guys later.
You too, Susie. Thank you.
Okay, bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.